everybody, it's Maria Clark and welcome to my studio. Hey, today I've got a really fantastic collaboration for you with two other YouTube artists. I hope you're going to enjoy this. We're really thrilled to celebrate Shark Week, and so we've got some really fun projects on the shark theme. So stay tuned and let's get started. My collaborators for this project are Stephanie Power Bergeron of Deliberately Creative and Ian, the Kilter crafter. And we have got some really great projects. Stephanie's kind of the hub for this collaboration, and she did two acrylic pours, custom acrylic pours. And if you haven't been following acrylic pouring on YouTube or on Facebook, you're in for a treat, and I'll put a few links down in the description below of some of the channels that I really enjoy. It's all the rage, the hottest thing right now, using acrylic paint and various mediums to create really beautiful, vibrant, and flowy art. So Stephanie did some skins for us, and I have got a terrific project for you all. And I hope you will check out Ian at the Kilter crafter as well, because he's got a fantastic card project for you that I think you're really going to love. So let's go ahead and get started. Stephanie sent me this really fun package. Look at, she drew this shark for Shark Week. Shark Week is coming. That is so cute. And so I was really thrilled to get her package. So let's go ahead and take a peek at what she sent. So I mentioned that acrylic pouring is all the rage, and making these acrylic skins is really a lot of fun. And Stephanie did this particular skin, and just look at how absolutely gorgeous this is. So this is really representing the ocean and the underwater feel, how the water and kind of undulates around and the various colors that you can see. I am going to use this bracelet blank and create a bracelet. So Stephanie in her video will show you exactly how she poured this, but it came on some freezer paper, so it just pulls really easily off, and there's two sides. So you see this side's kind of matte, and then this side's really, really shiny, and you get a little different effect from each side of the sheet. So I'm kind of looking at this, and I think I'm going to use this first, this shiny side. These bracelet blanks are pretty easy to come by. I just found these at the craft store, and they're actually really nice. They're very heavy. They fit really nicely. I like the way they look. They're kind of chunky, and there's really a lot you can do with them. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as my base. One thing you do want to do is clean this off with some alcohol, just to make sure it's nice and clean and there's no grease or anything before we get started. And then we can go ahead, and the first thing I want to do is make a paper template. So I actually just have some deli wrap. I decided to use a fairly thin, flexible paper. You could use any kind of paper that you have. You know, if you have copy paper or printer paper or something like that, it doesn't really matter. But just go ahead and trace out the cuff. And I'm doing that so I can get a pretty good fit. I have an idea in my mind that I want the acrylic skin to have a little bit of the gold of the bracelet around the edging. So I want to cut this template so that it's a little bit smaller than the actual size of the bracelet. So I'll just go ahead and cut that. I'm going to speed this up so you can see how I cut this template. It's pretty straightforward. And then what I'll do is dry fit it on the bracelet to see how it works, because sometimes when you trace around something, you know, it's a little bit bigger than the actual item. So I'm going to fold this up, and then I'm going to cut it a little bit, because I mentioned to you that I wanted to see a little bit of the gold edging. So I'm just going to freehand it from here on out and cut a little bit off, and just follow this pattern around, and hope, I'm hoping that it's working. And I might have to do this. Actually, I did it a couple of times to sort of get it a little bit more closely to what I wanted to see. I just folded it this way again so I didn't have to do so many cuts. And I'll just trim off a little bit more so that I get the fit that I'm looking for. And that's pretty easy to do to make this kind of a template. And then I'll dry fit it again. And I think that looks there. I just wanted to show you that I have a little bit of an edge, a little trim around it, so you can kind of see what that might look like. I thought that might give it a little bit of extra bling. So I really like the way that looks. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I've got this beautiful skin that Stephanie made for me, and I'm going to go ahead and look it over and kind of see where I want to cut this out, what I think might look the best on the bracelet. So there's an option up there, and there's some other colors sort of down below. On the other side, there's some really beautiful colors. There's that red and that green. I think, though, I'm going to stick on the front side here with that piece right there that's got a little bit of the black outline around some of the way the paint flowed, and I just really think that's so beautiful. So I'm using my X-Acto knife, and you want to really use a sharp blade. One thing about these acrylic skins when you pour them, you know, they're not necessarily, there's some thinner, some spots that are thinner than others, so you really do want to make sure that your blade is really sharp. You could trace this too and just cut it with a pair of scissors. It's really easy to cut. And I just thought that I would use a blade, and my blade is sharp enough that it's doing a fairly good job of going around my template. So I just keep cutting that, and sometimes I have to go over it again just to make sure I'm getting through all of that skin. And just take your time really, so that you know that you're cutting through. Better to take one pass at it than many passes at it. And just trim that up a little bit. And then sometimes, you know, I have to go back over it where I didn't quite go all the way through. Easy enough to do. You don't want to tear it, so just make sure that you're cutting a pretty clean cut. And there you go. And just do a little extra cleanup around the edges. Ooh, gosh, that looks so beautiful. I just think that is so pretty. Look at how gorgeous that looks, and that really does represent the ocean, the deep, deep ocean. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm really looking forward to this. So I'm going to fit it onto the bracelet blank and just make sure that it seems to be fitting well. These skins do have they're flexible, so there's a little stretch, and you know, you can sort of move them around a little bit, so you have a little bit of give here, kind of like using a piece of vinyl or fabric. I see that I do want to trim a little bit more off that edge, and I thought I would use my blade to do that, but really that did not work. I kind of see an accident almost waiting to happen here, so I'm just using my scissors ultimately. And yeah, I guess I'm just trying to figure out what to do here. I'm using my scissors, and I'll just trim away any little bit of the extra, and I might have to do that a couple of times so that I get it fitting really well. But you can see, look at how easily that cuts. It just is just so gorgeous, these skins, and there's so many things you can do with them. I think that is going to look fantastic. I love the way that looks. Ooh, doesn't that look good? All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the rest of the project, because I'm going to apply this skin using a matte gel medium. And as I'm thinking it through, I think that I also am going to ultimately apply some resin, because I don't think that skin will hold up with just leaving it without some kind of protective coating. I could put some varnish on it. That might work, and I think I'll do some experiments to try that, but I really do think that resin is going to be the best option. So before I get to that step, I'm applying the gel medium, just smearing it on with my fingers. I don't want to do put too much on it. And then I'll just apply that skin down, move it around. As I said, once I put that medium, there's a little bit of slick underneath there, so you can kind of move it around a little bit. And then you want to make sure that you get any bubbles out. So peel that other end and then just keep applying the gel medium, and get that put down, get the air bubbles out. And that's really pretty straightforward. That's all there is to that. And I'm just going to wipe up a little bit of the extra gel medium on the outside, because I do want to have a high shine on that little bit of a rim that I've got there, that trim. So just fiddling it around, making sure I got my bubbles. And now I'm really ready to resin. And I have this little ice resin kit. I've actually had it for a long time, so I'm kind of, making sure that this is going to work. Now, I looked at a lot of at YouTube videos, and they say that you need to rotate. If you're doing resining a curved surface, that's always kind of tricky because the resin can just fall right off. But if you can rotate it, you can kind of keep that resin moving until it hardens enough. So because I'm a brilliant engineer, and I say that kind of mocking myself because I'm not a very good engineer, but I did have this paint roller. I was looking for a way that I could rotate my cuff as the resin was curing. And I couldn't think, what could I use, a dowel on two cups, or what could I do? And I saw this paint roller, and I thought, okay, that's brilliant. I'll use the paint roller. So we'll see how that works out. Don't laugh at me too much with my engineering skills here, but I really did think it was a great idea. So I'll show you how that works out. So I got a lot of noise here in the background today. The grandbaby's here, so if you hear some screeching in the background, just that's Piper. She's out playing and having a lot of fun, so you might hear a little bit of noise. So I'm going to mix up this resin, and this I can tell you is too much resin actually for the project, but it came in this squeeze piece here, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. But I've got a mold, a silicone mold. This is actually from the baking section, but these make great, this is a great mold, so I'm really like this. I'm going to go ahead and use this mold to just use my extra resin and a little bit of Pearl X powder to color that resin, and then I won't waste anything. And I'll have some little resin pieces that I can use in some of my other artwork. So I'm cutting off the top of this. You just cut those pieces off and then squeeze them into some kind of container, so they're already pre-measured for you. That's the nice part of this. And so just squeeze it into the cup. I'm using a cup, and then according to the manufacturer's instructions, I stir that for 2 minutes and let it sit for 5. The next thing I do is I'm going to tape off the back of my bracelet blank because I want to keep any extra resin off. And I'll tell you, I use this painter's tape, and I like the painter's tape, but it did not keep all of the resin, so there was a little bit of seepage, and it really made it kind of a pain to clean up. Okay, here I am. I'm kind of setting up my brilliant project here to be able to rotate my bracelet. So I just taped the heck out of this thing onto the roller. A couple of things about this. I mean, it worked good. I might not use it a second time, but it worked good for the purposes, and this was my first time resining on a curved surface. But see how it kind of rotates there. So it's doing its job. It's not particularly level. So I'm going to go ahead and set it, get my cup so that I have something to sort of lay it on. It laid on the cups really nicely, and then you can see I would just be able to rotate it around as I needed to. So I'm going to use that, and I got a lighter there, and keep my fingers crossed that this is going to work. All right, so the resin's I mixed it for 2 minutes, let it sit for 5, and then I'm just using a foam brush, and I'm going to paint it on. When I first started this, because this is the first time I've ever resined a curved piece like this, I was a little stingy with the resin. Now, you don't want it so much resin that it's just, falling off, but you do want enough to kind of coat it nicely. I ended up doing 3 coats of resin, but they're really, really thin. So this, you can see that my little paint roller method worked pretty good to help me move the piece around, and I had it really taped on there well. So I'm just applying a thin coat of resin around all the bracelet, and I'm not worrying too much about getting some on the tape because this resin's going to move, and it's going to drip a little bit. So no point to worry about it. But trying to get a nice even glossy coat on there, and I'll go over it and just add a little bit of extra resin. And then I will use my lighter to pop any bubbles. So I let this, I kept turning my resin every 5 minutes for, maybe about an hour or so until it kind of thickened up and stopped moving. And then I let it set for, I don't know, maybe about another hour or so. So it was nowhere near cured, but I wanted to get the tape off and clean off any of the resin that might have seeped underneath the tape. So I used the acetone to do that, and then let it cure for then a full 24 hours. Okay, now that it's cured, I let it cure for 24 hours and then I retaped it. I taped the entire back of this thing, and instead of using the paint roller this time, I just put these little tabs because I'm going to paint on the first layer of resin, and then I'm going to put another coat. So I've got this whole thing taped up, and I've got those two little tabs. I've got a really fine paintbrush and a little Q-tip in case I need to wipe anything off. And now I'm going to paint my sharks. So I'm using that DecoArts fluid, the media acrylics. They're not too thin. They're just actually a nice consistency for this, and I'm just going to freehand my sharks. So I just went on the internet and got a reference photo of a shark in the water that I could use, and again I'm just I'm just free forming this. So I've kind of done a sort of a curve for the body, sort of almost like a tadpole, and now I'm adding little shark fins. And then I'll add another little dorsal fin, just a little hint of a dorsal fin onto the back. And it's a really fairly simple shape, so I felt I could just freehand this. And there's the little dorsal fin. And then I'll add another for the tail fin. I'll just fill out the tail fin just a little bit more. So you can see that it's really just, a really simple shape. And I hope it's representative of a shark in the water. So there you go. And I'll put another couple of sharks. I'm going to put it there. That's going to be so pretty over that sort of blue-green. So just another freehand, same kind of process where I'm just freehanding in the body, and then I'll put the fins to give it the shark shape. This was really a fun project. I do occasionally watch some of the Shark Week shows, so I really enjoy that type of programming. And so this is really a fun collaboration to sort of celebrate Shark Week. I was a little bit nervous about freehanding this, but you got to just kind of try some different things and see how they work out. And I thought actually it turned out pretty good. So just, don't worry too much about it. When you're doing your artwork, sometimes you're afraid to make a mistake and mess up one of your projects. And I can tell you I've messed up plenty of projects, but it's a great way to try something new, to experiment, and to improve. So I went ahead and decided that I could risk this. I think the idea of using these acrylic skins on a bracelet is just really fantastic. I think it's turning out as I had hoped, and I think I'll be making several more of these. I've been playing around with acrylic pouring myself, and I just love that particular style. Okay, and I'm going to put one more shark. You could do as many or as few as you wanted to. I kind of liked 3. I thought 3 worked well, and you can see the way sort of the water of that skin is moving, that it really kind of lent itself to having 3 sharks there. So go ahead, another shark, freehanding that one. One thing I'll mention too, as I was painting this, I'm using a really fine detail brush, and you want to check your brushes pretty well because there was a stray hair actually on this brush, and it sort of interfered with, you know, with my painting just a little bit. So check your brush before you start using it and make sure that it's what you want. And I had that Q-tip handy in case I made a mistake, and I didn't really like the way that one fin, the placement of it. So I'm going to try to get it off of here. It's doing a pretty good job just using water to clean that up. It didn't get it completely off, but it got a good portion of it off so that I can kind of fix it and make it a little bit more what I was hoping that it would look like. So I'll go ahead and just put that in there again, and then just do some little fine tuning here to make the body. I think I wanted the body a little bit thicker, and I wanted to be able to you know, get a little bit better shape on that shark. So I'll just add a little bit more here to fill it out. Okay, there you go. I got my 3 sharks. I think they turned out pretty good. So I want to make sure that those are really thoroughly dry, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put another layer of resin. And I'll fast forward through a lot of this because it's the same process. I ultimately ended up with 3 layers of resin, but that's a lot of dry time. So here I am just applying another layer, and in the same exact way I did it before, just using another foam brush and getting a fairly good coat, not too much. You don't want it too thick or heavy because it's just going to drip off, but you want a nice coverage and a nice, as even a coat as you can possibly get. So I'm just going to apply that, and then I'm going to try out my new method of the tabs to turn it. So we'll see how that works. Pop the bubbles that you've got, and then I had left it, turned it up, left it there for 5 minutes, and then you saw me just turn it, and I just did that for, I don't know, for the first hour or so. And here it is. Here's the completed bracelet. 3 layers of resin. I think it turned out great. I'm really happy with it. Now, as I would do more projects, I would get a little bit better, but I think it turned out great. So here's another shot of that. Isn't that, I just love the way that turned out, and it was such a fun, interesting, you know, piece, conversational type piece to have to wear. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me. This was a great collaboration. Thanks to Stephanie. Thanks to Ian. Please check out their channels and the links to their videos. Ian's is going up on Friday. I hope you all enjoyed this. As always, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me in my studio and watching along. Take care.